Alaska and further down the Aleutian Train, you are not at risk. So if you are sitting on the Kenai River right now, if you're sitting along Cook Inlet, even in Homer, if you're there in Resurrection Bay or Ketchimek Bay, you are safe. There are no threats to you at this time from this particular earthquake. So this magnitude 7 point
This is David Denton in the Stormwatch America Command Center here in Atlanta. It is 6:15 Eastern Time, and we're live from Atlanta. We're continuing coverage of breaking news and severe weather. We have some breaking news to tell you about right now out of Alaska, where a tsunami warning was issued, now been downgraded just moments ago to a tsunami advisory after a 7.3 earthquake hit the area moments ago. We have no reports. There was a tsunami generated, but the tsunami warning center is saying that a small wave is headed in. There are no reports, and we have no video at this time of an impending tsunami wave. They're saying one was generated. It's going to be small, and it will be moving in about 10 minutes to the Alaskan coastline. So we'll keep this monitored. We're going to go to a local station in Alaska right now in the Anchorage area, KTUU, for continuing coverage.
Earthquake, of course, downgraded at this point, which is great news to hear. But I know at that initial really.
Oh, did you see the
really
message was scary. It says you are in danger.
Yeah.
So a lot of people were a little freaked out.
Yeah, and especially
understandably so.
you get that alert saying to move it to higher ground. You wanted, does this impact me? Does this impact friends? Lots of people fishing at this point. So of course, go to our digital desk, and the Tracy and Melissa will also be there updating continuously throughout the afternoon.
All right, you can also check out our Facebook page. And thank you for joining us. Please stay safe. Look for those updates also on Alaska's Newssource.com. Back to regularly scheduled program.
So we do appreciate your patience on that. And, it looks like people, you guys are being really kind on Facebook, and we appreciate that. Kodiak is colored in advisory. Yes, Kodiak is in the advisory zone, as well as Cold Bay, Sandpoint, all the way down to Unimak Island, north of Unalaska. Unalaska is not included in the advisory zone. Neither is the Kenai Peninsula. It begins south of the Kenai Peninsula, a little bit north of Kodiak, and then down on the Pacific side. So the advisory is still a possibility, means the tsunami is still a possibility, but the risk of it going farther inland is much reduced.
The initial 7.3 earthquake hit at Sand Point, about 605 miles southwest of Anchorage. Within the past 30 minutes, there was a 7.3 earthquake. It immediately generated a tsunami that apparently is already past Sandpoint, now headed toward the Cold Bay area. Again, a tsunami was generated, but the latest information from the Tsunami Prediction Center is this tsunami is going to be a small wave, not a large, life-threatening wave, but you do need to be off the water at this time. Don't be down at the beach areas, and you need to stay indoors. There's a possibility of flooding along the beach there. This is the reason the tsunami warning was changed to a tsunami advisory now, because they're not expecting a giant tsunami wave, but still enough to produce to keep you away from the water and the possibility of flooding along the coastline there. Again, it will be in Cold Bay, Alaska, here in about 5 minutes. Let's go back to KTUU, continuing coverage in Anchorage, Alaska.
4.2, and just here in the last 20 minutes we have had a 4.4. So these aftershocks are ongoing. We do still have a tsunami advisory in place because of the threat from that tsunami which has been generated. But fortunately, the good news is they're not expecting a large inundating wave. It is the coastal areas, the local coastline, the harbors. beach there into the bays that you need to be prepared for impacts. That could be anything from waves coming in, smaller waves, but very unusual and erratic waves, to quick current changes. And that's why we stress it is so important to stay off from the beach, because you cannot really anticipate what that water is going to do when it hits the coastline. We've seen in the past that people wanted to go down and just look at it and see what it's like, what it's all about, and then they run into danger very quickly. So we do not want that situation. Just stay off the beach until this is done. We will let you know as soon as we have the all clear from the Tsunami Warning Center. They're monitoring those buoys.
Get into multi-story buildings, that's a risk of life and property. This is, you want to move off the water, get off the beach and away from the coast. You still have the possibility of those waves, multiple waves. They will be unusual for your area, and there could possibly be unusual currents, things that you don't expect. So you want to be extra cautious if you are near the water at this time. You want to move away from the water. And you want to, again, move inland or uphill. If you are on a boat, and you can move out to sea, you want to go to a depth of at least 180 feet. This gives the boat time to adjust to the possibility of the waves. And then if you are at sea, please avoid entering shallow water or harbors, marinas, bays, and inlets. You want to stay at sea until the danger has passed.
And we did hear from the Coast Guard in Homer. They're telling us that they did evacuate the Coast Guard station on Kodiak. They're working to notify vessels that are in the water in that region. So they are working there in Kodiak to make sure that the harbor is safe. Again, they have evacuated the Coast Guard station there. Another statement that we have just gotten in is from Senator Sullivan on Facebook. He says, my team and I are closely monitoring the 7.3 magnitude earthquake near the Alaska Peninsula. Our prayers are with everyone, he says, affected because of the tsunami advisory. Mariners should be mindful over the next 24 hours of any unusual conditions. He is asking that people please take all necessary precautions, follow local guidance, and make sure that you're in a safe location. If you need assistance, to contact the local emergency services, and they will get you help if you need it. Again, if you are unsure where you are, contact your local authorities there if you do need help. So again, this is just an ongoing situation. This is the tough spot where we are in a waiting game, and it's so hard because we've been through this many times with tsunami warnings and advisories in Alaska, and it is a very urgent and serious situation, and then we just have to wait. So we know that those waves have been generated. We do have the good news that the warning has been expired. This is a look at the, we do want to pull up what the aftershocks have been like. Again, we are continuing to see a number of aftershocks in the area. Magnitude 7.3 was the initial quake. 1237 is when that happened, 12 miles deep. But the reason we are waiting is because we know a tsunami's been generated. We know how large it is. They're tracking that information, but this just takes time to unfold, and they're not going to give the all clear until we know. And the tough thing is, some of you will have evacuated. It will have completely changed your Wednesday plans, and then now all of a sudden you're doing something completely different, and then you go, wait, there was never a tsunami in my town. Why did I go through all of this hassle? Well, it takes some time for us to see where these waves are headed. So that's why we prepare for the worst, hope for the best in this situation. There is a tsunami. Again, that is not a question at this point. There is a tsunami. A series of waves has been generated because of the size and location of this earthquake. But again, it is not large enough that we're expecting widespread extreme inundation. So that's why it was downgraded, but the threat does still exist. That has not changed.
Right, we want to keep people alert and aware. In particular, Dave Schneider with the Tsunami Warning Center said, in particular, this is a situation that coastal areas, beaches, harbors, inlets, this is where you want to stay away from the water because of those waves. We don't have specific specific heights yet, but we do know that they did receive buoy data that indicated that there are unusual waves in this area, and that this could continue for about 24 hours. So you'll want to stay on alert, particularly if you're on the water. And of course, these are, in many cases, fishing communities. There are a lot of people with boats. There are a lot of people that are probably out on their boats at this time. So just please, everyone, be extra cautious. We're continuing to update and
Looks like,
continuing
yeah.
to check the latest on the advisory.
And we just got this new information in a few minutes ago on the tsunami advisory still in effect for communities of Sand Point, Cold Bay, and Kodiak. They are still watching this information. So again, this has not been expired or canceled. It is still in place. This is specifically for those communities that we keep mentioning, Sand Point, Cold Bay, Alaska, within that zone, or tsunami advisory zone at this point. So those places you need to move out of water, off the beach, stay away from harbors, marinas, the breakwaters, bays, and inlets, and just really important that you're alert in these areas. So I am waiting specifically for observations. They will tell us when they get them, observations of how high these waves are when they reach the coastline. We do not have that information yet. So stand by with us, but we do know it's confirmed. It was a magnitude 7.3 earthquake that was 12 miles deep that is responsible for generating this tsunami.
And we're also working on some information about the number of aftershocks that we have been seeing in the area, because there have been a number that, like one just recently at about 210, 5.2. That's according to the USGS. And Alaskans, we've experienced these, but 5.2 is quite strong. I'm going to switch over so I can, Melissa's wanting me to get a map up. I apologize, but I have to switch over to a different computer to do that. And
so again, the largest aftershock we've seen so far is a magnitude 5.2. That happened here just in about the past 20 minutes. So we are still feeling that shaking. The tsunami can often oversee the impacts of the earthquake itself. For those communities that are still feeling the shaking, the normal earthquake procedure and plan is what you want to follow. Again, you stop, you drop, you cover, and you hold on, and you wait for that shaking to stop. That is really important, and it is tough when you have aftershocks like this and the shaking that just feels like it's non-stop. People want to evacuate, they want to run, they want to get out of their structure, but we do not see very many impacts from any problems with the structure itself. That is a myth, a common misconception that your structure is at risk of collapsing. Here in Alaska, fortunately, most of our structures are pretty strong and are built for this. So really what you need to do is just to drop, cover, and hold on. If you have a table, something sturdy to get under where you are near, that is what you need to do. But when we see people running out the door, that is when you're at risk of having injuries, whether from something falling, from you tripping or falling into something. So it's a scary situation, and we have that fight or flight response that kicks in. But just stop, cover, hold on, wait for that shaking to stop. It will stop, even though it feels like an eternity. Generally, the shaking actually does stop pretty quickly. So do just continue to remember what you practice all the time in Alaska when it comes to earthquake safety. Get to a safe place and wait. The good news is we are not expecting any sort of widespread inundation, so there's no risk that you need to get out of your home, as long as you're not right there on the coast. If you're in a cabin or something on the beach, right on the coastline, then yeah, get to higher ground. But everyone else in town will continue to be just fine where you are. So focus on being safe from those earthquakes. And those of you along the coastline, in the harbors, that's where you need to be focused on being safe from the tsunami advisory and those tsunami waves. So two different situations happening at the same time. We know those tsunami waves, of course, they're generated because of the earthquake. We have had some questions here. Is there a threat of the aftershocks causing an additional tsunami threat? Generally, not likely. I'm not going to say it's not possible. Really, it doesn't matter if it's an aftershock, a foreshock, or the main shock. What matters is the size and the location of the earthquake. So should there be an aftershock that is another magnitude 7.0 or greater earthquake in the right spot, yes, certainly that can happen, and that can create create tsunami waves. That is not what we're seeing happening right now. All of these aftershocks are small enough that we are not concerned for additional tsunami waves to be created. We do have the map up now for you of the shocks that have occurred. Everything there in red. You can see the largest one in orange, that is the magnitude 7.3, but the most recent aftershock that is notable is the magnitude 5.2. That was 97 kilometers, about 50 miles southeast of Sand Point. You are likely still feeling some shaking from that in those communities. So again, continue to monitor local conditions where you are, stay off the beach, and we are monitoring the situation very closely to see how conditions are going. So again, a tsunami advisory is still in effect, but we are not expecting that big widespread inundating wave water to extend into the communities. So that is a good thing. Again, we do still have that tsunami advisory in effect, but no other larger earthquakes beyond the magnitude 5.2. There was just a second magnitude 5.2 aftershock that has come in. So these are coming in rapidly, and they will continue to do so until the ground stops shaking, which aftershocks from an earthquake this large will continue for months. We saw that with the 7.1 that we had in Anchorage back in 2018. Those aftershocks can continue for months. I do want to show you a breakdown of the aftershocks that we have seen so far. Again, we are just under 2 hours from that initial magnitude 7.3 quake. We have now seen 4 magnitude 3.0 to 3.9 aftershocks. We've seen 5, 4.0 to 4.9, and 1 that have been larger than 5.0. We have not seen any magnitude 6.0 or larger, but again, this is an evolving situation. And what happens is seismologists with the Alaska Earthquake Center, they will monitor and review each one of those aftershocks to determine its precise location, how it is connected to the main shock, and the impacts there. We have a large subduction zone that is right on the edge of our coast, and as that North American plate, the Pacific plate goes underneath the North American plate, that is where we get that friction. And so this is a common situation. Seismologists with the Alaska Earthquake Center will tell you, yep, this is pretty standard for what we would expect here in Alaska. This is not unusual. This is right where they would expect those earthquakes to be. This is a size that we do expect them to be at. So that part's not unusual. It doesn't mean that the threat from them or the impacts change any further. So again, we see hundreds of earthquakes every day in Alaska. Obviously, we don't see magnitude 7.0 or larger quakes every day in Alaska, but they're certainly not uncommon for us. And that's why we do the preparations that we do. That's why we practice these drills. Now is the time to respond to them.
And there were, just a couple of years ago, we did have a series of very strong earthquakes in this same area.
Yes.
As I said earlier, I do have friends that live in Sand Point, and so I remember quite distinctly when they were going through the series, there was another 7+ earthquake in that area. So this does happen. Does it make it any easier? Does it make it any more comfortable? It's concerning, and it is it's just hard to live through, as we all know. So we do see those aftershocks coming through, and very likely with an earthquake like this, you will see aftershocks continuing through the area for months, if not the next year. When you see these strong, those will be evaluated to see if they are considered aftershocks of that earthquake, as we're seeing here. So we do original earthquake 7.3, that was at 12:37 this morning, and since then we have been seeing these aftershocks. That most recent one is that 5.2 that happened at about 2:10 this afternoon. So we do want to let everybody know that while it has been downgraded from a tsunami warning to a tsunami advisory, the danger has not passed. We are still considered to be under this advisory. The buoys have measured an actual tsunami. We don't know the specific height of it at this point. We're continuing to see, to get more information about that. But so far, we are continuing to just monitor the situation, and we will hopefully get some more information here from the Tsunami Warning Center, and also just kind of keeping everybody up to date on what's going on as it has been downgraded to an advisory. But we've spoken before that we are not completely out of the danger zone.
Just about 5 seconds here.
Yes.
We're going to join our broadcast audience, so stay with us here. Welcome here from Alaska's news source. We are following a tsunami advisory here. You may have been with us through our streaming channels online, but want to let you know the latest information. There is still tsunami advisory in effect. This is still in effect from northeast of Unalaska through Kodiak. Those communities need to stay off the beach, away from the harbor, off that immediate coastline. But as we reported earlier, the tsunami warning has been downgraded. So that means there is still a threat, but it is not as serious as it was about 30 minutes ago. So improving conditions.
Right, we don't expect tsunami and seawater to inundate the towns and to go much beyond the harbors, but beaches, harbors, anywhere near the ocean still at risk, in particular because, as we've been talking about a lot this afternoon, is that a tsunami is not a single wave. We have this image that we often see about the size of a tsunami, but it's a series of waves that come through, and it also creates, it just messes with the water in your area. So currents where you're not expecting them, and people that are really familiar with the water think, oh, I know this area. You might be in an area that now is being impacted by the tsunami. So that's why we want to be extra cautious, because in particular where we're talking about, we're looking at areas in Southwest Alaska, and these are in majority fishing communities, a lot of people with boats in these areas. So we want to be really cautious while we're under this advisory.
Yeah, so again, if you're in the beach, the immediate coastline, that is where you need to move to higher ground. If you're in town, you are safe where you are. Again, if you're not along that immediate coastline, for these areas that are highlighted in orange on this map, closer to the epicenter of that magnitude 7.3 earthquake. But with that said, we're still feeling the shaking. The aftershocks continue. We just saw a magnitude 5.0 earthquake that happened just in about the past 25 minutes. We're updating this information live and in real time, but you can see the list of aftershocks there now, 2 that have been larger than a magnitude 5.0. So it is really important that you're still safe from the earthquakes themselves. Still continue to drop, to cover, and to hold on. Make sure that you're safe from that shaking, while at the same time, make sure that you're off the beaches and away from those harbors, because that's where the impacts from those tsunami waves are. Again, there's no question about whether or not a tsunami has been generated. We know those waves have been generated, and because of that information, we know that they are not large waves. So we are not expecting a widespread inundating wave that will impact these communities, but we are still expecting the waves to move in. And as Tracy mentioned, we see very erratic conditions with this water. You see quick changing tidal situations. You see, just differences in the water than what you're used to. Strong currents can be created, especially in those bays and harbors. So that's why we say just stay off the beach until all of this water can settle down. And the Tsunami Warning Center in Palmer, they are still monitoring every single wave, every buoy measurement to really determine when that water has settled down, and that's when they will remove the advisory.
And one of the questions that we got asked online earlier is, could an aftershock create additional tsunami? And technically possible,
So
but unlikely.
Right. So it only matters the size and location of the earthquake. So it doesn't really matter if it's an aftershock, main shock, foreshock. That's irrelevant. It's just how big is it and where is it? It's unlikely at this point to see another magnitude 7.0 or greater, but it's possible. There could be a completely separate event that's not even related to this that could create a tsunami. That can happen at any time in Alaska. So these magnitude 4 and 5 aftershocks, though, they're not large enough to create a tsunami. So as you can see on this map here, all of these little points, these red and orange dots, these are aftershocks that have now happened since that main shock there, but these are not large enough that they would create a tsunami concern. So good news there. Don't worry about that right now.
Right, and as you look at that map, it is those areas that are in red, those are the most recent aftershocks, and the size of the dot indicates how big it is. So there is that big initial earthquake that was at 12:37 this afternoon, and since then we have had those continuing aftershocks that have moved through the area, and we are getting reports that people are they're still feeling the earth kind of shaking in that area. And as living through the 7.2 earthquake here in Anchorage, I think 6 years ago now, it was terrifying. And so I know that then when you feel the aftershocks, you think we're going to experience another earthquake that size. It's very difficult. So hopefully we can give you a little comfort that it looks like the tsunami danger has been lowered, and so we are looking at still a possibility, but mainly we're dealing with things that are along the coastline.
And we do have an aftershock forecast now, so this is based on historical data of earthquakes of this size in this location. There's only a 7% chance that we would see a magnitude 7.0 or larger aftershock from this earthquake. That is a low chance, but there is a chance, and that is within the next week. There is still a 41% chance that we could see a magnitude 6.0 or larger earthquake, and an 89% chance that we'll see additional 5.0 or larger aftershocks from this. Now, this is a maybe more surprising statistic. There is a greater than 99% chance that we will continue to see magnitude 4.0 and larger aftershocks continuing over the next week. Those are large enough to feel. So, unfortunately, for those of you that felt the big one, the 7.3, you're likely going to continue, especially closer to Sandpoint and Cold Bay. You're going to continue to feel the shaking, and gosh, that is unnerving after you've gone through a magnitude 7.3. You don't want to feel any shaking at that point. You want that ground to be stable. So just remember what you've practiced. You do practice this all the time. We'll pull up that forecast for you again of what the anticipation is, just so that you're not caught off guard and you are anticipating these aftershocks. You drop, you cover, and you hold on no matter the size of the shaking. Do not wait to determine, is this big enough to respond to? Just respond at this point. Then you don't have to worry about whether you are safe or not. So two different concerns at the same time. One is from the shaking and the injuries that can happen from earthquakes, and the other is from the tsunami threat. Good news is the tsunami threat is only for the coastline, for those harbors and for the beach. That's the area you need to stay away from. Again, the Kenai Peninsula, Anchorage is not under any threat from this. So no concerns there. If you're fishing the Kenai, if you're down in Soldotna, out on the water, no problem. Keep doing what you're doing. But if you're in Sandpoint, Cold Bay, Kodiak, that's where you need to get out of the water. If you have a boat in the water, that needs to be offshore, because what happens is the water is just moving about, and you get those strong currents, and you don't want to get damaged there.
And so it's interesting because you said that when you feel the shaking, stop, cover, and hold.
Yes.
And wait till the shaking stops. Again, you don't wait, and that's what we also see with the tsunami warning is you don't wait to see how big it is. When you get those warnings, when you get those advisories, you move now. And we did get a number of people on our Facebook page. It was really great to see that they said, I believe it was King Cove. We're in King Cove, we're on higher ground. And that's exactly what you need to do. So we really applaud those people that respond that way when you are, when you get the warning. Even as an advisory, you want to, the danger is lowered, but it is not non-existent at this point, and so we want to keep everybody alert. And one of the things that we were talking about is that the reason that it is pretty isolated is because of the depth of the earthquake. It was only about 12 miles deep, so it isn't expected to impact the Pacific Island or the Pacific Ocean much, or areas around Southeast, not expected to cross the Gulf of Alaska.
Yeah, I want to pull up this graphic for you just as an example to show you. Again, so the earthquake happened here 50 miles south of Sandpoint. The water, where the earthquake happened was 12 miles deep. So there's only 12 miles below the Earth's surface that this happened. So the water on top of that is impacted by the shaking, and that's what creates those waves. Imagine you throw a rock into into a pond, and that's going to create that ripple effect that propagates all directions from it. You throw a small rock in a small pond, you're going to have smaller waves. You throw a big rock in a big pond, you're going to have bigger waves. That's just the reality of it. And how deep that earthquake is shows how much mass there was to move, how much earth there was to move to create that water to go up and down. So because it was 12 miles deep, after looking at how the water responded to that, scientists at the warning center were able to say, yes, we've seen a wave. Originally, it was small.
Up and parts of the Kenai Peninsula were lit up was because we were into the zone.
And this can be so frustrating. We have seen this a number of times here in Alaska, that you get that scary sound on your phone, you see the alerts going on your television, your radio, and you're not sure if it is for you. That's why we're here. We're here to let you know who needs to pay attention and who doesn't. So again, anyone on the Kenai Peninsula, Anchorage, you may have gotten the alert, doesn't matter. You are not at risk. And it's just because of how they send out those signals. That technology will get better. There will be a day, hopefully, that we even get a warning before the earthquake happens here in Alaska, but that time's not yet, not here yet. The fact that we get the warning on our phone, that's progress from how it was decades ago, but it still requires you to look at the information or to tune in and really find out, does this matter to me before you know, and you know if you're in a tsunami zone. If you're in a tsunami zone and you feel shaking, you don't need to wait for a warning. You don't need to wait for anyone to tell you to get to higher ground. You get your own natural warning from the shaking.
Right, and I was around about 5 people, or the group that I was around, about 5 phones went off, and it was quite startling. My first thought, because it is an alarm alert, and my first thought was, what's happened? And I turned to because my phone did not go off, and I turned to the person and I'm like, what is it? And she showed me tsunami warning. Instantly knew that we had to get over here and jump on the air, because it is a frightening sound.
Scary.
And so when you don't know if it impacts you, it is quite scary. But we do have much more information now.
Yeah, and I do want to just mention, while we're here letting you know the current situation with the tsunami advisory and with the latest aftershocks, we have a team of reporters that are reaching out to all of the communities that are impacted there. If you have damage in your community, call the newsroom, let us know. But they've reached out to local officials. We've heard from Senator Sullivan that he's monitoring the situation very closely, along with a lot of local officials as well. So we will continue to bring that information as it comes in. If we hear of any damage, any impacts, any injuries from this, just from the earthquake itself, we will continue to bring you that information right here on Alaska's news source. But right now, the main concern, we got to get through this tsunami advisory. That's the main concern, as we, again, are not expecting a widespread inundating tsunami, not the big scary one that you may think of, but those local impacts can be sneaky sometimes. Right. You might be wanting to go down to the beach and see what this wave looks like, and it comes in and gets you before you realize what's happening. So that's what we don't want to have happen. Just stay safe, stay off the beach, make sure that you're out of the harbor, and then once they tell us that the water's settled down, we'll let you know and we'll go right back to normal.
Right, yeah, I think that the movies have depicted tsunamis and in this case, from what we've been able to deduce, that the buoys haven't measured a huge wave. They have measured a tsunami. They have measured a change in that wave, a building of that wave. So just kind of be prepared for that. But it is not a huge wave, which is why it's an advisory. But also it is a series of waves. Right. And it pushes through and it messes with the water and the environment and brings debris in where you're not expecting it to be. And that's always, that's where some of your risk comes from.
Yeah, we weren't even expecting those first waves to reach Kodiak until 2:40. So it is now 2:44. 2:40 is when the forecast was for the first waves to reach Kodiak. We are not at that time yet, so we are still waiting to see those waves make their way to Kodiak. If you're in Kodiak and go, gosh, you know, this happened at 12:30, it's now been 2 hours and I'm not seeing anything happening here in Kodiak, that wasn't expected to happen until about 2:40. So still waiting on those times. Again, here is when they were anticipating that first activity to begin in various communities. Sandpoint was first because you're the closest to the earthquake, only 50 miles from the epicenter. So that was expected to start around 1:30, Cold Bay 2:25, and then Kodiak at 2:40. So we're just beginning to see, again, potential impacts moving into those communities. The Tsunami Warning Center, they are watching, and it looks like it was just cleared. We just had the all clear.
Yep,
There
it
is no
disappeared from our
longer
map.
advisory or warning effect. So the threat from a tsunami has just been cleared. Even if you are in Sandpoint, if you are in Kodiak, again, there's no longer a threat to those coastlines. Your local officials will determine when and how it is safe to return to your homes. Had you still been evacuated, continue to listen to them for the latest guidance. They will point you in the right direction there. But again, we are seeing no tsunami warning or advisory in effect any longer for any communities in the state of Alaska, anywhere in the world right now. I can tell you that we don't have any impacts from any tsunamis. So the all clear has been given from the Tsunami Warning Center. We are getting in now observations. Sandpoint, Alaska did experience just at 2:10 a observed tsunami height of 2/10 of a foot. So that sounds relatively small, but the impacts of that much additional water in a harbor can be significant.
Right.
So you go, oh, it's not this big, huge 6-foot wave. It was only 2/10 of a foot, which is what they were anticipating. So that has come and gone. So good news there. They're saying, please do not reoccupy those hazard zones, even though the advisory has been canceled, until local emergency officials indicate that it is safe to do so. We do know a tsunami was generated by this event, but no longer poses a threat. Some areas will continue to see small sea level changes. So you're still going to see some of those currents, some of that erratic behavior from the water that determined to reoccupy any of those hazard zones. Those will be made by your local officials. But we do know from the Tsunami Warning Center, the Pacific Tsunami Warning Center, which is based right here in Palmer, Alaska, that a tsunami was generated. It reached Sandpoint, and they are no longer expecting any threats from those waves. So again, the main impacts that you'll continue to see at this point are just from the aftershocks that are likely to continue. Again, we know we've already seen 2 magnitude 5.0, not seeing any larger than that, but that's still potential. So you feel the shaking, drop cover, hold on, and those will continue to weaken over time.
And we will, as Melissa mentioned earlier, we do have our team is contacting the different communities, finding out what they felt, what they saw, what was going on in their communities, and we'll bring that to you tonight, of course, on our newscast and coming back here live if the situation warrants it. We want to thank you all for sticking with us. We really appreciate it. And
And just a reminder that even though your day was likely impacted if you were in one of these communities, not how you expected your Wednesday to go, just use this as a reminder that you got a really real-life opportunity for a real-life drill. And just because we didn't see that inundating tsunami in your community doesn't mean that that threat wasn't possible. They thought that it was certainly possible when those sirens went off. So it's really important that next time it happens, you don't base it off of this situation that we just had. Next time it happens, whole new situation. It will happen again, and there's still always that potential for widespread inundating and deadly tsunamis. So just always pay close attention. That's why we practice here in Alaska, but so glad that that is not the situation.
right, but always react. You always have to respond as if it's the first time that you heard it, because be that time. So thank you so much for joining us, and we'll throw you back to your regular programming.